Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled by a dense and mysterious forest, lived a beautiful young princess with hair as golden as sunlight and eyes that sparkled like emeralds. Her days were often spent wandering through the palace grounds or exploring the edge of the forest, where a small sparkling well was hidden among the trees. This well was special to her. It was her place of solitude, where she could reflect on her dreams and thoughts, away from the noise of palace life. One golden summer afternoon, the princess was playing beside the well with her favorite toy, a glistening golden ball that shimmered in the sunlight. She would toss it into the air, admiring how it sparkled before catching it and repeating the toss again and again. But as she played, her hand slipped and the golden ball fell from her grasp, dropping down, down, down into the depths of the well. The princess gasped, watching helplessly as her treasured ball disappeared into the water. Her heart filled with despair, and she began to weep, the sound of her cries echoing around her. "Oh, my beautiful golden ball," she lamented. "I would give anything to have you back." At that moment, a strange, croaking voice interrupted her sobs. "Why are you crying, fair princess?" Startled, she looked around but saw no one. Confused, she continued to cry, thinking her imagination had played a trick on her. But the voice spoke again, louder this time, with a gentle, soothing tone. "Princess, why are you so sad?" it asked. This time, the princess looked down, and to her surprise, she saw a large, curious frog sitting at the edge of the well, gazing up at her with kind, bulging eyes. "Are you speaking to me?" she asked, feeling slightly amused at the absurdity of a talking frog. "Yes, I am," replied the frog, his voice deep but gentle. "Tell me, what troubles you?" With a sigh, she explained how her beloved golden ball had fallen into the well and was now lost. The frog listened patiently, his eyes filled with sympathy. "Well, dear princess, I can retrieve your ball for you," he said. "But what will you give me in return?" She looked at him in surprise. "Anything you want," she replied quickly, hardly believing he could actually help her. "Gold, jewels, fine clothes. Whatever you wish for, I shall give it to you." The frog shook his head. "I have no need for wealth or fine clothes, dear princess," he said. "But if you truly wish for my help, I would ask only for one thing." She leaned closer, her curiosity piqued. "What is it?" The frog hesitated, then looked at her with a serious expression. "If I return your ball, you must promise to become my friend. You will allow me to eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep beside you in your bed." The princess was taken aback by the strange request, but she quickly reasoned that a mere frog couldn't possibly hold her to such an odd promise. She nodded, agreeing readily. Yes, of course, I promise. Just fetch my ball for me, please." With that assurance, the frog dove into the well, disappearing beneath the surface. The princess waited with bated breath, watching the water ripple and bubble. Finally, the frog emerged, holding the golden ball triumphantly in his mouth. He placed it at her feet, and she snatched it up with a squeal of joy. "Thank you," she exclaimed, hugging the ball tightly to her chest. Then, without another thought for the frog or her promise, she turned and ran back toward the palace, her laughter echoing through the trees. "Wait," called the frog, hopping after her. "Princess, remember your promise." But the princess was already out of earshot, leaving the poor frog alone at the edge of the well. Disappointed, he returned to the water, hoping that one day she would remember her promise. The next evening, as the princess dined with her father, the king, there came a strange, faint sound at the door. It was a gentle, persistent tapping, accompanied by a familiar voice. "Princess, fair princess, open the door for me," croaked the voice. "Remember the promise you made by the well, to be my friend both in word and in deed." The princess froze, recognizing the frog's voice. She felt a wave of embarrassment and dread wash over her. She had hoped he would forget, or at least that she would never have to see him again. But the tapping continued, and her father, noticing her unease, asked what was wrong. Reluctantly, she told him of her encounter with the frog, her lost ball, and the promise she had made. The king listened in silence, his face stern. "A promise is a promise, my child," he said. "You must honor your word, no matter how unusual the circumstances. Go to the door and let him in." The princess knew her father's word was final. Resigned, she walked to the door and opened it, revealing the little frog waiting patiently on the doorstep. "Thank you, princess," he said with a kind smile. "I have come to dine with you, as you promised." With a sigh, the princess stepped aside to let him in, leading him to the dining table. She reluctantly allowed him to sit beside her and share her meal, though every bite was a test of her patience. She was mortified, hoping none of the palace staff or her friends would see her dining with a frog. After dinner, the frog looked at her expectantly. "Now, dear princess, as you promised, I shall sleep beside you tonight." The princess's cheeks flushed red with embarrassment, but her father's stern gaze reminded her of her duty to keep her promise. She led the frog to her room, where he hopped onto her bed and nestled into the soft sheets beside her. As strange as it felt, the princess soon drifted to sleep, her dreams filled with strange images of golden balls and enchanted wells. But in the quiet hours of the night, something remarkable happened. The princess awoke to find that the frog was no longer beside her. In his place was a handsome young prince with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Who are you?" she gasped, still half dreaming. The prince bowed, his expression full of gratitude. "I am the Frog Prince, cursed long ago by a wicked witch. Only a promise kept by a kind heart could break the spell. And your companionship has set me free. Thank you, dear princess." The princess stared at him, too astonished to speak. The prince explained how he had been trapped in the form of a frog for many years, bound by the curse until someone fulfilled a promise to him. By honoring her word, she had broken the spell, and he was finally free. Over time, the two became close friends, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The princess admired the prince's wisdom and kindness, and he cherished her loyalty and compassion. Eventually, their friendship blossomed into love, and they were married in a grand celebration attended by creatures from across the kingdom, including the foxes, deer, and even the frogs who had once been the prince's companions. And so, the frog prince and the princess lived happily ever after, their union a testament to the power of promises and the magic of kindness. And somewhere in the forest, The well still sparkled under the sunlight, a silent witness to the story of a frog and a princess, and a promise kept against all odds.